to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that I'm happy that you're joining us this week. Now, to help you change your perspective on whatever change you're going through, let me rephrase it. Whatever change you're going through in your life, I really, really hope that the show provides, between my guests and I, tips and strategies and ideas that immediately after listening to the show, you can apply to your life or your business or your professional life to help you move the needle with whatever change, whether it's chosen or thrust upon you. But I truly hope that we get or able to help you navigate that change just a little bit more ease and grace. Now, my motivational quote to get us into the vibe of our conversation today, the motivational quote is by Jane Goodall, and she says, "What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." Now, as each new year rolls around, I sit back and I reflect on what is this new year going to bring? What skills do I need to continue to develop? And what are actually my goals for the year? Now, as I age, you all know I'm still 39, right? Probably for the 39th time. I realize how many blind spots I have and how much I still actually get excited about learning every day. Now, this quote really hit a chord with me because I truly live my life from the perspective of showing up and adding value and making a difference to the world around me, right? Who's ever in my orbit. Now, can you imagine if we all approached life from a place of giving and growing? Holy smokes, what magic would happen out there? Well, of course, today I have an amazing expert and a friend. His name is Allan Eaton. Now, Eric is a hardworking, honest, determined, and self-motivated individual. Eric wants to leave the world in a better situation than he found and enjoys seeing friends and families rewarded for their hard work. He has over 15 years of branch and operational banking experience and 2 decades of stage and voice acting experience. And I'm not going to say he's SAG-AFTRA. Eric, I don't know what that means. Eligible. I'm assuming that's something with stage. So please help me welcome my good friend, Eric, to the show. So Eric, thanks for being on.
Hey, friend, good to see you again. So
I miss you.
I missed you too, but it sounds like we'll see each other in New Orleans coming up.
Yay.
So that'll be fun. That'll be a good time.
So
SAG-AFTRA is the Screen Actors Guild, and they merged with the American Federation of Television Radio, blah, 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 blah.
Okay. So, yeah, cool. So when we were on the bus, so Eric and I actually met at a conference down in Dallas in 2022. And 2023, the conference is New Orleans. So Mark better hire me back, or not hire me back, but bring me back to speak. But Eric, we were on the bus and a bunch of people were singing.
Yeah, that was my fault. So we generally we used to do karaoke a lot, and we went all over town looking for a karaoke place and couldn't find one. But fortunately in New Orleans, we know right where they are. So,
well, I can't wait to hear you sing.
It'll be fun.
Always good to see you, kiddo. All right. So first question for you, what is your driving motivation, every day? You're a husband, right? You're a dad, right? You have kids.
I have kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a husband, but I'm a dad.
Okay. So dad, you have obligations at work, right? You're always growing within your career. So what makes you show up and wake up every day motivated?
Someone taught me a long time ago that positivity is a choice. And, with everything going on, I live in Jackson, Mississippi, or nearabouts Jackson, Mississippi, and there's never anything positive that comes out of the national news about Jackson. But I wake up every morning and realize that I'm blessed to be able to have a job and have family that loves me and friends that support me. And I just get up in the morning and I say, it's going to be a great day. And coming into that mindset helps me uncover the little things that make the day great. You mentioned blind spots earlier. That's so important to realize that we labor with blind spots in every area of our lives. So you wake up in the morning, you have to be a conscious choice to just be a positive person. And I teach my children, make at least one person's day every day. And you can say you've done a good job.
It's funny, as you were saying that you teach your kids. When I was a little kid growing up, I remember my mom and dad would say, just learn one new thing today and it makes it a great day, because you're expanding your mind, right? You're expanding your capabilities. Sure. But you have to choose to learn and be kind, of course, but learn to choose to learn something new every day. And it's just funny what we say to our kids, especially if they're good habits. And then now as an adult, I learned something new. Do you know that habit is still with me? I start my day reading 20 minutes every day. reading an article or something about something I'm curious about, or something I think, oh, I should know about that AI intelligence for my business, or, oh, I really like the numerology for my own personal growth, or whatever it might be, right? The gamut of interest, but choosing, and I think, Eric, people forget you have a choice every day. So you can choose to wake up and have a miserable day. And guess what? You become what you think, and you have a crappy day. You choose to have a good day, and usually you'll have a good day. Things go wrong. Life is life. But I think if you start in a positive place, it can impact the trajectory of the day and the effort that's put out. So I love that. I think, and it's a choice.
Yeah, it is. I saw a slogan one time that says, in a world where you can choose to be anything, choose to be kind. I think that's good.
I love that. And that's a great, I think our world needs a little bit of kindness. We're very, very quick to judge and comment on what people are doing. And it's funny, when I train, and, people are very candid with me, and they're seeking feedback. So I always preface it by saying, any feedback I give, there's never any judgment. It's always coming from a place of love, care, and respect. But I'm going to be honest with you, right? I'm not going to lie to you and give you what you want to hear, because that's not how we grow. Just know it's coming from love, care, and respect. And I think that's why people come to me for advice, or they listen to me, because they know there's never any judgment. Who am I to judge you, right? I'm not perfect. Close. Eric, I'm close.
Yeah, very close.
So bad.
That's really impressive.
What, the limited time, how perfect I am?
No, you're 39 years old. That's pretty good to be that close to perfect.
You're so bad. Next question. How long have you realized that you truly are a faithful person, and that you kind of live your life from that perspective, which is a healthy perspective, in my opinion?
Yeah, so I come from a family of faith, and mom and dad both are faithful spiritual folks. And growing up in the South, it's we're the Bible Belt. If we're in the Bible Belt, Mississippi is the buckle, and one of the big old buckle. But we take it for granted that just because you go to a church or a synagogue or a mosque, that you just automatically are a spiritual person. And there's an extra level that people have to go through to really make that connection. And I was a young child when I made that connection. I remember sitting in church one day, and it was a Catholic church time. And I just remember it all hit me at one time. And from that moment on, I've talked to God and walked with God, and believed in a higher power, a creator of the universe, all that good stuff. And then from that angle, I can see that everything really is kind of linked, and without getting cosmic or stellar, we all really do share energy with each other. And that's where that positivity comes in. You can walk into a room and just feel that it's a good place or a bad place to be. And there's not an accident there. That's part of the spiritual realm that we all walk in.
Yeah. And it is contagious. I remember years ago, it's got to be about 15 years ago, I had a client, and their training room was down in the lower level basement, if you will, but it was an office building. And the head of HR came in, and I clean up. I do not say, well, I did my job. You come and I think it's rude, right? So I cleaned up. I made sure the chairs were pushed in and what have you. And so everybody had left from the class, and the HR director came down, and she looked at me and she said, "What happens in here?" Eric, my heart sank. I said, so I'm thinking they all had to go upstairs past her office to leave. So I said, oh my goodness, did they not like the training? Did they not feel it valuable? She goes, oh no, they all loved you. So I said, what do you mean then? What happens in here? She goes, Connie, I walked into this room. She says, it actually felt like electricity. She said, I feel so good. What did you do? And this was the weird thing. This was the first time this had ever, I'd only been in business about 5 years. So I said to her, what's so funny? I was cleaning up, and I said, I felt like I was walking on a cloud. They were so receptive. They asked so many great questions. They welcomed me. It was so good, but I thought, no, it's just me. I had a good day. She goes, no, I could feel the energy left behind. And that was my first time that someone verbally, like I have felt it, but someone verbally felt it that wasn't even in the room all day. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is that connectivity that if you're open to it, I think you feel it in a deeper way than if you're like, oh, this is all hooey and woo woo, right? But we really are all connected. We're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah, we are. And one of the things that you know very well is when you're a presenter in front of a big group of people, like we'll just say the Bank Trainers Conference, you get a presenter's high. I mean, it's just a big, once you nail that session and everybody is just like writing things down and asking questions and the vibe is on, that's awesome.
It feels good, but it also, again, I think you and I are similar with this. I don't just want to get up and speak and preach. I want engagement. I want them asking questions. I want them thinking, wait, what did you just say? I never thought about that, right? It's that curiosity, that trigger to say, how can I challenge myself and extend myself more? And again, I love speaking. I love speaking, and it's fun. It's a great energy exchange, and it's a high. It's like a natural high, which is a good thing.
It is. Yeah, natural high, since we drug test.
We got to be careful. All right, next question. Who has been, would you say, as you reflect back, who's been your biggest role model in life?
You know, it's probably cliche, but my father and my mother, they're both great people. But, you know, my dad was always there, is always here. He's still always around. He is a great father, grandfather. He's a great in-law. I mean, he just has been a brother to his sisters and son to his parents. He takes care of everybody. He was one of our scoutmasters in our Boy Scout troop. But he stayed on long after my brother and I left. Like he was basically dad to a whole lot of folks. People always call him, you know, Mr. Eaton. If they say Mr. Eaton, he goes, "That's my dad. You can call me Emmett," is his name. So he's just kind of the classic cool guy. You know, there's not a shred of toxic masculinity, since that's a big word everybody throws around today. And but we know what that is. That's just someone who's a jerk. You know, it doesn't have to be a man or a woman. It's just toxic people. He's just, there's not an ounce of toxic in that guy. And it's just like, you wake up every morning and it's a choice. And he's kind of the one that taught me that, not verbally, but just the way he, you know, he shows up. He taught us one day, don't be the guy that, or I'm going to mess this up. He's going to hear this and laugh at me, but it's be the guy that's standing there ready to give the man a hammer. Don't make him ask for it. So, and I've always tried to use that to see how I can help out, see how you can be there. Here at Bank Plus, I always tell my folks, learn or look for ways to be the plus. You know, be the plus in Bank Plus. So.
And it's funny because I think when you're proactive and not reactive, not that, I mean, sometimes you have to react. There's a fire, react, right? But what your father, that's saying, right? It's about just knowing, anticipating how you could potentially help that person. And here's the other thing I've learned, and this is one of my, I think, biggest challenges in life. I don't like to ask for help. I think that asking for help is a sign of weakness. I'm working on that within myself. Because here's the reality, we can't do it alone. We can't, right? So by somebody proactively helping me, I become so appreciative because I think, how did they know that? Like, that was amazing. And it's the goodness, right? And then of course I'm appreciative, and that makes them feel good, because giving is so much better than getting, for sure. So I love that he taught you that. Now, do you think he learned that from your grandma and grandpa, like from your grandparents?
He learned a lot from my grandparents. My late grandfather was pretty tough. He was, you know, a Navy man, military school kind of guy. He was a dentist here in Jackson for forever. But he was a brilliant man. And so I think what was neat to see is that my dad didn't stand in his shadow. He made his own shadow, or his own area. I think my father's grandparents had a lot of influence on him, specifically my great grandfather. We call him Pappy, but his nickname was Jazz Baby Luckett, and he was a football player at Mississippi State in the years 1919 to 1923. He was World War I veteran. And he was just a really cool dude. I have the blessings of meeting him for a few years of my life, and then he passed away in the 80s. But yeah, Pappy Luckett was a cool dude, and I can definitely see that he had a big impact on my father. they're both in that same, kind of a area that when my dad's gone one day, I think people look back and say that was a cool guy.
And
So
that's the legacy, right?
it
We
is.
think about finance, you're a banker, right? So we think money, we see money, we're here to help people save for those rainy days and for the future and legacy. So I think when we use the word legacy, it's often financial. To me,
Yeah.
that is the legacy. Like you're talking about your great grandfather,
Oh
right?
yeah.
On a podcast, which didn't
Yeah.
even have that technology, and just honoring him and thinking about him and keeping his memory alive. Like, wow, that's a legacy. And that you can actually connect how he impacted your dad, who's impacted you, how your dad is impacting your kids. That's
Right.
the legacy, right? Of family and that connectivity and all of those things. It's wonderful. Uh, it's 1919. It's like, wait, what? We're well into the 100 years
100 years.
past that. It's freaking crazy. But what a beautiful story. And again, legacy that, people, I think we get so hung up on the material and the day-to-day stuff
Right.
that
We
we
do.
forget that when we teach from the soul or we teach from love, the ripple effect is magic, right? We can really become magic. Um, do you have any must-do goals in your life?
Yes. So one thing that I have been working on is to travel more. And I know that's, people, hey, I just want to travel. I want to go to Las Vegas or whatever. I like to travel internationally because this world is much bigger than we think it is. I know we always say it's a small world, but it really is not. It's huge. And there's something out there for everybody to go and see. So one of my goals last year was to start traveling more, and I've actually done that a lot more than I thought I would. I was in England back in October. I took a little solo trip over there right after I saw you at Dallas. I got on a plane about a week or two later and flew to England and did some family research up there, and went to our ancestral home. The Eatons all come from a place called Chester in England, which is just south of Liverpool on the Welsh border, and it's a gorgeous. I want everybody to look up Chester, England, and see how amazing that city is. And big shout out if anybody's listening from Chester. But the Eaton name is all over that town. I saw where some of my relatives were buried. I had some relatives that were priests and bishops in the cathedral there. They're buried in the cathedral. And but yeah, the Eaton name is pretty strong in that area. It's Cheshire County in England. And walked into Wales just to say I'd been to Wales too. But yeah, so I've got some more travel planned coming up. I've wanted to do, there's an Episcopal mission trip to Uganda that has needed to happen for a while, but it keeps getting pushed off because of either COVID or things like that over the last
Yeah.
few years. Also would like to go to the Holy Land. I'm considering doing a week-long mission in Palestine at an Episcopal church in Ramallah. Most people when they go to the Holy Land, they do the scripted tour. They go to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. They don't ever go through Palestine. But I like to go where I'm needed, and our brothers and sisters in Palestine need us just as much as our brothers and sisters up the road in Yazoo City need us. So that's one of my goals. Not necessarily next year, but one of these days.
And here's the thing, by you going to these other cultures, think about, we just learned something about their culture, and how can you bring that back, potentially something you learned that could help people here right within your own community. But if we stay so narrow-minded, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I haven't really traveled in my life either. And that's so funny. It's on my vision board for 2023. I would love to go to Italy to see where my dad grew up. He's still alive. He's too old to travel. But you want to know, like, where are my roots really from? Right. Yeah, obviously you have your family and those heritage and the different traditions. I really want to see where he grew up, the town, and what did he look at every day? That kind of thing, kind of what you did. But I also think it enriches us, you like the human in us, that you just see from a different lens when you go to these old countries, because the United States, I mean, we're really only a couple of 100 years old. These
We're not that old.
countries are, several 100 years old. So the history and the perspective, I think, is vastly different than what we have here in the United States. So I love that. I think that's a great goal, because I also think I know you'll learn from that experience and somehow translate that into inspiring someone else or helping someone else with their own journey, whatever, whatever that means to them. So I love that. It's not a selfish endeavor. It's curiosity, exploration, right? And how can I, again, the ripple effect, how can I share this and inspire others or enrich their life in some way? I think that's fabulous.
So, part of me is my dad, and the other part's my mom. That's where I get my hard-headed stubbornness from. Is my mom. She's a Lebanese woman, and so that side of the world. My brother's actually been to Beirut and saw some family stuff over there. But yeah, it's neat to be able to pinpoint, where your culture comes from. And I know, unfortunately, with the way life has happened over the years and decades, and the scourge of slavery, a lot of people don't know where they come from specifically, but it is a blessing to be able to find just a thread and start pulling at it. And once you do, you'll start finding other threads. And my thing is just go and be there. You'll never, like I was saying earlier, there's a spiritual mysticism that moves people one way or the other. When I was in Chester, I found where some of my relatives were buried. I walked into another room and just kind of had this weird vibe, and it was an old side chapel at the cathedral there. And for some reason I walked over, and I'm going to text you a picture of this when we're done, but
yeah,
the reason I felt drawn to this old bookcase. This sounds stupid. It was the only thing in the room besides this old cupboard. And on the bookcase was a brass plaque that was donated. It said that it was donated to the cathedral by the wife of one of my relatives. The name Eaton was on this plaque, and I didn't even know that existed. But I was standing in it. The cathedral was started like 900, AD or whatever. And it was just kind of cool. Mine was blown. I just posted that picture all over. I was like, look at this, people.
That's why I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, and that's why when people say, oh, it's a bunch of hooey, and you think there had to be divine intervention. Of all the places for me to walk into, that's what I would find. It's not like somebody said, oh, make sure you go to the cathedral. You'll see the you had no idea. You can't tell me that, they say, oh, it's a coincidence. I don't believe in that. I truly believe in divine intervention, and you need it. Look you posted it. You were moved by it. It's that little piece of your past that they were doing good back then. So think about that, the thread that you mentioned of goodness and integrity and honesty and inspiration and giving back and community. You're living what was hundreds of years ago. That's cool.
That's very cool. And it was neat to be able to stand in those areas and say, this is where we're from. I mean, the air around here smells good. The grass is beautiful. The water is clear and beautiful. And, the streets are from 75 AD. It was an old Roman town. I mean, there's no telling how many people passed through there that met relatives or worked with relatives, or even people that I'm friends with here, maybe our relatives crossed paths hundreds of years ago. You never know.
You really, really never know. It's fascinating, like the whole genetic thing, so fascinating. Like that's another conversation for another day. But that's just really cool that because we started with your grandfather impacted, and you remember your great grandfather, but how he impacted your dad, how that's impacted you. And I guarantee how it's impacting your kids. And now you go that thread even further back, and you see that inspiration, that honor that they have lived. And now you're living it today in the, 2020, 2023. It's just so cool. I just love all this stuff. All right. Tell me, do you think you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I have wanted to be an introvert most of my life, but it just won't happen. It's impossible. I don't even try to be an extrovert. And I know that some people, you can learn to be an extrovert. Mm-hmm. I need to learn how to be more of an introvert in some areas of life. I don't need to always have a comment ready for something. And I certainly don't need to always go to a party when I'm invited. I just need to learn to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit this one out. It's not that I feel like I have to be the center of attention. I just enjoy it when people are having a good time. And then that could be around the coffee, pot in the break room. I'm drawn to people having a good time and just want to celebrate and laugh. And I always tell people if I weren't laughing, I'd be crying, because there's just so much to be sad about out in the world. But Yeah, I'm definitely an extrovert. I feel like there's just too much energy inside to just let it sit and be wasteful. So in fact,
Yeah.
once we're done, it's a little too quiet out in that branch lobby. I'm gonna have to go and stir them up on a Friday
You're gonna go out and
afternoon.
start singing.
Yep.
I tell you, and it's funny because the cocktail hour at the conference, I was drawn to you and a couple of other people, and we had a colleague that she was talking to everybody, and she's like, "You're still standing here talking to Eric," and I'm like, "We're having fun, and I want to get to know him, and we're talking about my show, and I we're talking about topics, and like there was so much." Energy and good feeling. It was like, I'll meet other people too, right? I know how to network, but why do we see? That's the other thing too in business, Eric, right? Oh, you should be networking.
Right.
Okay, I am networking with Eric, and I'm not a networker that it's like, let's get 100 cards and I met everybody in the room. To me, that is a waste of time. I truly want to network. I like to dig deeper and build relationships and then connect with those people longer term. Like, I'm excited. I'll get to see you in New Orleans again. And we're doing the show today. And, there's that, to me, that's the power of networking. It's really getting to know people that matter in your life and that I can learn from. And hopefully we can inspire each other and energy exchange, all those things that we're talking about. So yeah, it's funny. I'm laughing at that because I too try to be more introverted in that I've really trained myself to try to sit back and listen to people because I think we take turns talking at each other as humans and we're never really digging deeper with whoever the other person is that we're speaking with. When I observe, I feel like we're having all these superficial conversations, which are nice and cordial and all of those things, but it doesn't allow us to be, I think, real with people when
Right.
we're in this very superficial kind of broad stroke position. I don't know. What do you think? That's how I feel anyway.
I agree with that. I've never really liked networking events. I enjoy, cocktail hours are great. You don't have to have alcohol to be social, obviously, but
No.
I agree with you. I think that people need to learn to be more intentional with their networking. And, I'd rather, when I go fishing, I'd rather catch a few good sized fish than just a whole bunch of small fish that you're going to have to throw back anyway. And so I think there are people out there, and if you're listening and you're one of these people, it's not a crime, but there are some people out there that just like to collect as many business cards as they think, and then they'll throw them away and say, I'm not going to call that person. But, I'm like you, I'd rather spend 3 or 4 good growth conversations with people that we definitely are going to be intentional about staying connected like you and I have. Um, Honey Shelton, I think you may have met Honey Shelton. She's another person that I've stayed in contact with since I met her. Well, I met her at the New Orleans conference 10, 15, however many years ago that was. So Honey is considered a friend and mentor and all that kind of stuff. And people like that, that's, if you're very intentional about your networking, I think you end up being more enriched with the
And
result.
and it matters. It matters to others, and I think it matters to us. I'll just use an example. Mark, who runs, he was one of the ones who kind of helps runs that particular conference. I had never met him before, and we're chatting, and he's a dad, I'm a mom. We were talking about our kids and what are the kids doing and how old's your son, and his son was starting a business. And so immediately I'm like, oh, Mark, make sure you connect us after the conference. Let me see how I can help him. I have such a huge network from, business people, marketing, whatever it is that maybe he needs. I'm certainly happy to meet and share people I trust, because that's the other thing, right? Your network, my network. If I refer, that's my reputation. So I have vetted these people. I know not only are they really good at whatever their zone of genius is or what they bring to the table, but they're fairly priced and they're heart-centered and all those things that I think matter from a human standpoint. So when I refer, and that's why people laugh, they go, oh, I got the business. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course you did. I referred you. So the person that you're being referred to trusts me already. That element of trust is carried over. So these are the things, these are how you build deeper relationship versus I'm going to talk to everybody at this conference or at this networking event. Being intentional. I agree with you. That's a great word. Matters. It matters. And it enriches your life, but it enriches the other's life. And then there's, again, that ripple effect. How are we affecting others? Like Eric in our show today, who have we inspired? If we've inspired one person, amen, we've done our job, right? So I think that's the perspective that you and I both come from, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's one of those things that we were drawn, the energy was just there. There's several people at that conference specifically that just have that energy, and it's a good quality to have in a trainer or a presenter, is just to have that energy, because you set the tone of the room. Like you're in that HR room, you set the juice or the energy in that room, and it's a powerful thing.
It's unfortunate too. I think too many division heads, executives, business owners, right? The ego wins, and the numbers, we manage numbers instead of remembering, especially in sales. I mean, right? It's all about what are the numbers, we have to go back to the board, and all of that is really, really important. I'm not minimizing that, because we're in business to make money and make a profit for, right, the board of directors, shareholders, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you can't get it done unless you're doing it through and with your people. And I think we forget that. And, I've never been to your bank specifically, but the banks that I deal with, some of them, like, you walk in and you think, wow, this is a dynamic team. They are rock and rolling. Their customers are part of the dance that's going on in the energy exchange. It's a beautiful thing. And then other times you walk in and you think, who died, man? Like, this is depressing. You feel it though. You can't tell me that the leader isn't, you said it, right? You're good. When we're done, you're going to go, it's too quiet in there. I'm going to the lunchroom and telling people, come on, let's dance a little bit, put music on, whatever. You impact how people show up for the customer, which, oh, by the way, affects the bottom line, which, oh, by the way, is good for the shareholders. But it's got to start with your people and their ability, their ability, but also we want to motivate them and build their confidence to do bigger and better every day. And you can't do that by saying, what are your numbers today? Behaviors drive numbers. I feel like I'm a broken record when I say that, but it's exactly what you're describing, that, when we're done here, I need to go give a little pep in the step of my peeps, because that's going to affect the customer interaction as well. Right.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, that's the crux of the whole thing, is the behavior drives the numbers. And at Bank Plus, I'm not going to, like, this isn't a commercial for Bank Plus, but we're very intentional about our culture, very intentional about people feeling a part of our system. We've got values and our vision, but we don't just talk about it. It's something that we live from the top down. Our CEO, Jack Webb, is the kind of guy that will walk into the room and say, we're not going to do this because it's not the right thing to do. If it's going to cost the bank money, well, it's just going to cost the bank money, because we believe in integrity. That's one of our values. And I specifically know that he said that before. So we're not going to do that because this is Bank Plus, and that's not the right thing to do. And that means a lot to me.
Well, and I'm sure it means a lot to your people too, right? So they want to show up and work hard because their values and the values of the organization, starting with your CEO all the way down, right, they're in alignment. So that feels good, because we're living our truth too. We're living our truth with our customers. It's all translatable, right, over to those behaviors. It's funny. Wells Fargo had a beautiful value statement. And when they did their whole, whatever they did, right, not to throw them under the bus, because I think they've tried to right the ship, which I commend them for. But in their, everybody puts their annual report. And in the beginning, you have your vision and your value and all of that. And theirs was to give back to the community, honor their employees, be fair, blah, blah, blah. So the culture that they had written was good, was clear, and really, really good concept. What the translated to into action was the polar opposite. And it started with, unfortunately, the executive team down, which is tragic. So what you've just described is, yeah, you thought about it. Yeah, we know what the values and the culture we want it to be. But here's how it translates. Right. And it starts with your CEO down. It's commendable. It's a beautiful thing. Doesn't always happen out there.
No, it doesn't. And it's kind of sad when it doesn't happen, because it's we spend more than, I think I'm having some connectivity issues here.
No,
can you hear
you're
me?
Good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I think that we have, we spend 40 plus hours here every week. Way more than we see our own family. And I just think it's so sad. And that's part of my personal mission, is to make sure that people, as the bank experience officer, I want people to have a good experience at work. I want people to love working here and love banking here. And it's just money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like Chick-fil-A. I always say it's just chicken, but you go there for the experience. I want people to come to Bank Plus and say, that's my bank. You may have a better rate across the street, but this is my banker, and they're going to take care of me. Rates go up and down, but culture and character, that's lasting.
And that's so important, Eric, because money is important, right? Our family is important. Health is family and health, I think, are the most important, because if you're not healthy, forget about earning money. But our money is important. So if you have a bank like yours, where I trust the person, right, you're my banker, the teller could be my banker, but I
Right.
know that when I come in, they understand me, they see me, they hear me, and they're going to make those recommendations that are just so perfect for me. I'm going to, every time I have a financial situation or a financial question, well, who am I going to go to? I'm going to go to that person, because they always take care of me through integrity, honesty, and all those things. Again, having the values is great. Living and breathing those values is what makes Bank Plus such a great bank, and why people come back and refer. And we forget, when we serve bigger, we get referrals coming in. The more you give, the more you get. I've lived my life that in my 61 years on this earth. That is how I lived my life, Eric, and I will continue to live my life. And sometimes, like you said, the CEOs, it costs us money. It's the right thing to do. Long term, this is going to be the right thing, value related for the bank, and et cetera. And then ironically, what ends up happening, a new opportunity comes because of that decision. A new business comes in with $1 bazillion, whatever it is. So when you come from that framework of goodness and honesty, I just think magic happens. And I know people are like, oh, she's so Pollyanna. You got to live your life this way, because if you don't believe it, then you're not going to live it. And that's just the reality, right?
That's walking the walk and talking the talk and mixing them together.
Yeah.
Even though I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but
No.
I'm going to try.
You're so funny.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, we're out of time. Eric, thank you so much. I love our time together. And I think this is a fruitful, important, and I think you gave some real good examples of those values and culture, and it starts at the CEO and all the things both. But here's the deal. We're one person. So how we live our personal life absolutely impacts how we show up in our professional life. And I think the way you blends you being you and goofy, and I mean that with love, not in a bad way, but like, let's pep it up, let's put some music on, let's dance, whatever it is that you do to energize your folks. That's your professional, right? But it's coming from your heart, which is that personal side. So I love you, my friend. And I'm so truly glad you're in my orbit and that we've met, because I think philosophically we come from the same perspective, which is nice to find people like that. Guys, I'm sorry.
So there's other people out there like us. There's not just us too. So,
well, we're the two special ones, though. Just remember that we're the two special. I'm teasing. So everyone, I think if you're looking to build a culture, this is Eric's job at his job. Just reach out to him. It's Eaton reb@gmail.com. Email him, ask him questions, and he could give you some ideas and strategies beyond what we talked about. But I do think it's important that you have these conversations with people who are already doing it, but doing it well on top of just doing it. And your organization is thriving, not just surviving right in this economic downturn. So again, if you have questions, Eaton reb@gmail.com. I will also put Eric's LinkedIn link in the show notes so that you guys could connect with him on that. If you don't want to email him, but you'd like to follow him, see what the bank is doing, please connect with him on LinkedIn as well. He's an amazing guy. Eric, any last words before we say goodbye?
Well, just go out there and be inspired. Being a believing Christian, I will say this, that Jesus didn't do it by himself. He had some friends that helped him, and look at what they accomplished, spreading it around the world. So start small, but don't keep it small.
Yeah, that's right. We can magnify what we do out there. I love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So thank you again, Eric. And thank you all for joining me. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter what change you're going through. I truly hope my guests and I, our conversations, us being silly sometimes, and the tips and strategies that we share, I hope that you take them to heart and try to implement them in your life. Eric just said it, one little thing, just try one little new thing, see how it feels, and see what the trajectory of your life can change. Here's the deal. Information's a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, it's simply information. Once we start applying it and really use it within our life and business, magic starts happening on the back end. And that's my hope for you. Thank you again, Eric, and thank you all for joining me on Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman on webtalkradio.net. I will see you all next week. Like Eric said, have an inspired week. Do something different. Do something that feels good and report back. Let us know how it went. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.